Okay, Barry, as if all the pictures you've got on racecourses aren't enough to keep you busy, I understand you go to a lot of rather unconventional places where you can take a bet. Can you talk us through some of those, please?
Well, I go to unconventional places, yeah, although they are regulated, I have to say. They all come under, I do a lot of harness racing, and that comes under the BHRC, the British Harness Racing Club. Well regulated throughout the UK, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, Northern Ireland, and obviously the Republic of Ireland. I do a lot of trotting. The reason I got into trotting was, again, going back to my father and repping. When my dad didn't have spare pitches available off the old ESL lists, off the old numbers, where I couldn't go to a racecourse a weekend, I got chatting to a few people, and a few of my fellow bookies or punters turned around and said, I'm off trotting. Looked into it, trotting stroke harness racing. I looked into it and I thought, yeah, I quite fancy that, because being, if you like, conventional with regards to being brought up on the dogs, the greyhound racing, booking tickets, doing your own prices, nobody tells you the prices, pricing up yourself. Yeah, so pricing up basically off your own accord, which I like, and that's the joy of, if you like, trots, points, dog racing. There's no outside influence with regards to your prices. So, and this is what punters like. You hear now punters coming up to you, on the race courses, turning around and saying, "Oh, you're all the same price." This. Yes, we are. Unfortunately, all the same price. We're governed by external influences now. We're all the same price. However, punters coming back to the race courses have never had it so good. Not be funny if they saw a burger going from like £2 from £4, they'd be thinking, what great value this is. But now we're 4 to 1, a 3 to 1 shot in the old days. But because we're all the same price, punters don't think, oh, what great value this is. So coming back to the trotting and the points and the dog racing, although unfortunately dog racing is a dying trade, as we all know, which is such a shame. But the trotting is still quite buoyant throughout Wales and the UK. It's got its own niche. It's Marmite. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But again, you can go from one end of the ring to the other. There might be 10 bookmakers, Appleby. There might be 20 bookmakers. You're going to be a variance of prices. Punters are not quite sure if they can get all the money on. In general, they can, to be quite honest with you. But it's a case of, right, he's 4 to 1, he's 5 to 1. What price is up there? Oh, you just missed the 6 to 1. There's only 4 to 1 down here, etc., etc. Not quite sure what price they're going to get before they get there. And that's all part of the intrigue and the love of going to these, if you like, working man's sort of tracks and courses. And so hence, yeah, I like it. I like it, being a journeyman myself. I like the fact that you go there and you never quite know what to expect. More so the race courses, you know what to expect. Basically, all your prices are there for you. You know roughly where you stand. You go to these abstract, inverted commas, unusual places. Then they're good fun. They're intriguing. You have to have a bit of devilment. You have to be on top of your game. You've got to be aware of all things that are going on. Faces, who's having a bet. The horses, what mark they're off. And the trotting I love because you've got the draw, you've got tight tracks, you've got different tracks, you've got different ground, you've got hard tracks, you've got a lot of anomalies. Okay, there's not a massive amount of horses. I would probably say maybe 200, 300, 400 horses that do the circuit. However, there's a lot from a bookmaking point of view to take in to price up and what to stand and what not to stand. Obviously we all make mistakes, we make mistakes all the time, of course we do, that's life, but you try and obviously cut those down. And trotting especially, I find, for me personally, is my most favourite sort of laying, how should I put it, my laying experience really.
So how do you even start up pricing up a race like that, a trotting heat?
Well, of course, it's like, with technology now, everything's totally different. In the old days, you would just go on what you'd see. You'd make notes. You'd have an old program from or a program from each place you went to. You a bit like the old dogs. I remember Dad. He had file of faxes of every time he'd come in of an evening. He'd write down every dog, write down the price, the trap, wide, throughout, whatever. He'd make his own notes. Because obviously on the flapping tracks there wouldn't be a pink, a greyhound pink, or a racing pink in the old Sporting Life, so you wouldn't have that access. Whereas now you can go online, even with trotting, you go onto the bhrc.org website and you can go and look through all the results for the last probably 20 years. So you've got that at your fingertips. Whereas the old days, it was more so you would price up off. I think even more so in the old days, you would price up off the punter. Whether if it's a big punter, if the big punter, a big gambling stable, you would obviously shorten the price up. You know, I wouldn't tell them that at the time, but if it's a 2-to-1 shot, you'd probably open up evens 5-4. Knowing full, they'd probably have quite a lot of money on. Albeit it might be a 2-to-1, 5-2, 3-to-1 shot in your own mind, or in your own notes, or in your own tissue. So I think coming back to your question, Simon, it's more so looking at the card, seeing the draw. If it's drawn wide on the outside, you've seen how they run in a 400 metre Olympic. You have the staggered, whereby at Trotting, number 4, they're not staggered. So number 1 draw means that is a great advantage to number 4 or 5 draw on the outside of the gate, and the gate is the thing that pulls away from the horses when they're lining up. That's basically your starter for 10, no conferring.
So those betting rings must be shark infested waters. I mean, you know, how do you survive in them?
Well, I mean, the thing is, the odds dictate. Okay, people will come and say, "Oh, look at the amazing percentages you're betting to." You're not really. Percentages can be a little bit of a myth unless you're putting them all in the book. Unless you're laying every horse at, the 10-to-1 shots, which are sort of 9 or 10% of your book. You might have 4 or 5 of those, and you might only take a couple of quid on them. So the percentage, even though nowadays, of course, with computers, you can see exactly what your percentage is with all the new software. It tells you what percentage you're betting to. The old days, book and ticket especially, you'd have to work it out in your head. 10 to 1.9%, 5-to-1 shot, 16%, and you add it all up and say, okay, I'm betting to 150, 160 here. I can chug this one a little bit, pull this one in, or push that price out. To try and to gauge a balanced book where possible. Although when we talk about balanced books, me personally, I've always generally got the favourite or one I don't fancy as a loser. I'm not sort of like one to try and bet over, or in this day and age, green up. So it's taking an opinion on the draw, the driver. The driver makes a difference. The distance, obviously, they generally run over a mile on the Trotting, mile and a quarter some of the races, but generally a mile. What it's up against, whether it's looking for a handicap mark. There's all sorts of things you need to assimilate. Faces, when somebody comes in with a bet early on, only has a tenner on, you're thinking, aye, they know something, good judge. So you then adjust your prices accordingly. So the points are the same within reason. But I do think now technology is a great leveler when it comes down to pricing, to be quite honest with you. Solely because there's a lot more information. Even with the Trotting, you can go onto Facebook Live, you can go onto S4C were a great advocate 4 or 5 years ago. They would show a lot of races from a place where I love standing at Tir Prince at Towyn in North Wales. They have some great meetings up there. This year there's 8 Saturday nights, but really competitive, really brilliant racing, to be quite honest with you. For anyone who hasn't been trotting, I do suggest that on the Trotting side, Tir Prince, Musselburgh on the racecourse itself is very good. All the Irish horses come over. Appleby is a must really for a small quaint grass track in the middle of Cumbria. And there's a number of local tracks that for a day out, it's very good fun.
So are there any other unusual types of events that you bet at?
Well, I was called to go over a few years ago with a couple of my Irish punters. Said, look, how do you fancy coming over to Skibbereen, which is in the deepest south of Ireland, and they have the All of Ireland road race there, which is basically no sulky. It's just side saddle running up and down a cobbled street. So that was good fun. Massive crowds again. And don't ask me to price up that. I had to be a bit crafty and open up late. Wait for the other boys to open up, not to pull the prices too much, go along with the flow, not to upset the natives, shall we say. And that was thoroughly enjoyable. So I've done a bit of a road trotting betting. I think I was under the name of Seamus O'Flynn.
So what's the most, apart from that of course, what's the most bizarre occurrence at an orthodox meeting that you've had?
Trotting. One of the Trotting meetings when I was repping for my dad, betting under shoot. There's lots of stories I can tell. This is one that I do recollect. Now, the flapping, you've got the Trotting under the BHRC, and then you've got the flapping under the Wales and West. Again, regulated, but they call it flapping opposed to the normal harness. And we used to go to some lovely shows, the wife and I, take a picnic, open up the boot, you know, half a bottle of wine while you're sort of betting. I don't recommend that, actually, drinking while you're laying them, but that was the case in those. Quite a relaxed atmosphere. But this one day, I remember that there was probably something like 18 races, just ridiculous, with between 4 and 6 horses a race, going off every sort of 10 minutes, so they didn't mess around. And I was having a bad day. And I said to the wife Adele, so this can't get any worse, surely. Anyway, 4 horse race, 2 to 1 into 1 to 2. And they lumped on it, absolutely all the faces lumped on it. And you know your fate, generally. When that happens, you know your fate. Anyway, it was a mile and a quarter race. And of course, what gets to the front? Straight away, the favourite. And they're going around about 10 laps, like the Queen and a Corgis, basically. They're going around 10 laps, and they're coming around the last lap, you're thinking, right, how much this cost me? Oh, hold on, love, I'll just add up this column, you know, such a long column, I'm not added up yet. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to cost me right for you, Bob. Anyway, they come down the bottom of the hill, turning the left-hand bend towards the finish, and for some reason, the favourite, which is in front, just carried on going. And the other 3 behind, all the drivers are looking at each other thinking, what do we do now, guys? What do we do now? And as it happened, it got a puncture and he couldn't control it. So we got out of jail there. So that was quite a funny occurrence. But there's lots of stories like that.